On the morning of August 2nd, 1993, Derrick Robie, a bright-eyed and cheerful 4-year-old, asked his mother, Doreen, if he could walk to the park for a day camp that was being held nearby. The park was just a short distance from their home, only a few blocks away. It was the kind of place where children walked safely, and no parent ever feared the worst. But that day would be different. With a smile and a wave, Derrick set off on his short journey, never to return home again. When Doreen realized that Derrick hadn't returned after camp, panic set in. Derrick Joseph Robie was a bright, happy, and energetic 4-year-old boy. Born in October 1988 to Dale and Doreen Robie, Derrick was the heart of the Robie family. He loved playing with his friends, spending time with his family, and like most young boys, he was full of curiosity and joy. Dale Robie was Derrick's father, a man who was described as loving and devoted to his family. He worked to provide for his wife and children and was known to be a caring parent. Like many fathers, Dale cherished his time with Derrick and took pride in being involved in his son's life. Doreen Robie was Derrick's mother, a nurturing and protective figure in her son's life. She had a close bond with Derrick and was described as a devoted mother who was actively involved in his upbringing. Doreen's love for Derrick was evident in her daily interactions with him. The town of Savona in New York, where Derrick grew up, was a small town, a place where families felt safe letting their children roam freely. Crime was rare and danger seemed far away. On the morning of August 2nd, 1993, Derrick's mother, Doreen, allowed him to walk alone to a nearby park for a summer camp event. It was a short distance from their home, just a few hundred feet away, and Derrick was excited to be trusted with such independence. The camp Derrick Robie was attending on that fateful day was a simple local summer day camp organized in the small town of Savona, New York. It was held at a park, just a few blocks from Derrick's home, intended to provide young children with activities to keep them engaged during the summer break. This type of camp typically featured games, arts and crafts, and other recreational activities designed for younger children to enjoy a safe, fun environment during the day. Because Savona was such a small, close-knit community, it was considered safe for children to attend these camps without constant supervision from their parents. The camp was informal and not overly structured, unlike larger, specialized summer camps. It was designed for children from the community to participate in outdoor activities with other kids their age, supervised by local volunteers or staff members. The camp was supposed to be a safe space for children to interact and have fun during their summer vacation. At 9 o'clock in the morning, Derrick leaves his house, heading towards the park, wearing a white t-shirt and red shorts, carrying a small lunch bag. It is the last time his family would see him alive. At approximately 11 a.m., Doreen, expecting Derrick to return from the camp, begins to worry when she realizes he hasn't come home. She starts asking around the neighborhood if anyone has seen him. A community search begins for Derrick as the alarm grows. Neighbors and local residents join the search efforts. As the search continued without success, Doreen and Derrick's father, Dale, contacted the police to report him missing. The authorities arrived, and a more organized search effort began, involving police officers and search dogs. Police interviewed the camp attendees and staff to establish a timeline of events and gather any details about Derrick's last known whereabouts. They sought to understand whether anyone had seen him that day and if he interacted with any other campers or adults. But none of the campgoers ever saw Derrick, nor aware of any child arriving at the camp alone that morning. Tragically, later that afternoon, Derrick's small body was discovered in a wooded area near the park where he had been headed. Doreen and Dale were informed of the devastating news, which shattered their lives. They had gone from searching for their son to grappling with the unimaginable loss of their child. The scene that police found in the woods that day was beyond disturbing. Derrick Robie had been lured off the path and subjected to a violent attack. He had been beaten with rocks, strangled, and assaulted with a stick. His lifeless body was posed in a manner that suggested the killer had taken time after the assault, showing a level of callousness that was chilling. Investigators assumed they were looking for an adult, a sick predator who had come from outside the community. No one in Savona could imagine that such a heinous crime could have been committed in their community. Just days after Derrick's body was found, a young boy of about 13, Eric Smith, walked into the police station. Eric was accompanied by his paternal grandparents, who had a close relationship with him. Their presence was likely meant to provide him with support and reassurance, as they may have sensed that he was distressed or confused about the events surrounding Derrick. As Eric entered the police station, he was met with a somber atmosphere. Officers were already dealing with the emotional fallout from the recent tragedy, and the arrival of a local child, especially one so close in age to the victim, added an unexpected layer of complexity to the investigation. Once inside, police officers greeted Eric and his grandparents. They likely began by asking Eric general questions about his whereabouts on the day Derrick went missing. Eric appeared cooperative and began sharing what he claimed to know. He told officers he had seen Derrick on the day of his disappearance and provided specific details about the area where Derrick's body was later found. His knowledge of the crime scene raised suspicions among the investigators. Police noted Eric's demeanor during this initial interaction. He was described as calm, but perhaps exhibiting signs of nervousness. His behavior might have seemed incongruent with the seriousness of the situation, raising further questions among the detectives present. As the officers continued to probe for more details, they likely began to press Eric for more information, including direct questions about his actions that day. Their questions would have gradually moved from general inquiries to more specific and pointed questioning. At 13 years old, Eric was seen as a quiet, introverted boy. His bright red hair and freckles made him stand out, but not always in a positive way. Eric was often bullied at school for his appearance, and the constant teasing had taken its toll. His classmates called him names, mocked his thick glasses, and he became increasingly isolated over the years. Eric came from a troubled home. His father had abandoned the family when he was young, and his stepfather had been emotionally abusive, leaving Eric to grow up with feelings of rejection and anger. To make matters worse, Eric struggled with mental health issues, including attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, and low self-esteem. But it wasn't until the events of August 2nd that anyone would realize just how deep Eric's rage had gone. Intermittent explosive disorder is a condition in which an individual experiences sudden and intense bursts of anger that are disproportionate to the situation. In Eric's case, it was argued that his feelings of anger, frustration, and neglect built up over time and finally erupted in a moment of uncontrollable violence. But on that summer day in 1993, no one was thinking about mental health. Eric Smith was just a kid riding his bike through his neighborhood when he came across 4-year-old Derrick Robie walking alone. Eric lured Derrick into a secluded area. What began as a seemingly innocent encounter turned into a moment of unimaginable horror. Eric attacked Derrick, beating him with rocks and strangling him. He then violated the boy's body before finally leaving him in the woods. When Eric returned home that day, no one could have imagined what he had done. He acted normal, as if nothing had happened, but the darkness that had been unleashed would soon be revealed. Just days after Derrick's body was found, Eric Smith voluntarily walked into the police station with his grandparents. He told officers that he had seen Derrick that day and provided details about the crime scene that hadn't been made public. His knowledge of the crime, combined with his strange behavior, quickly raised red flags. As investigators pressed him, Eric broke down and confessed to the murder. He explained that he didn't know why he had done it. He was simply angry and wanted to hurt someone. In 1994, Eric Smith went to trial for the murder of Derrick Robie. The decision was made to try him as an adult due to the severity of the crime, a choice that sparked controversy. How could a 13-year-old be held fully accountable for a crime as brutal as this? What should be done with a child who had committed murder? During the trial, Eric's defense team argued that he suffered from mental health issues, including intermittent explosive disorder, and that his years of being bullied had fueled his rage. They pointed to his troubled upbringing, his emotional isolation, and his inability to control his violent impulses. His lawyers sought to paint a picture of a boy who, while responsible for his actions, was also a victim of his environment. But the prosecution painted a different picture. They described the crime in gruesome detail, showing that Eric had lured Derrick into the woods, brutally assaulted him, and then carefully posed his body. They argued that Eric was fully aware of what he was doing. Perhaps the most heart-wrenching moments of the trial came from Derrick Robie's parents. They spoke about the devastation of losing their son, the impact his death had on their family, and the unimaginable pain they had endured. Derrick's mother, Doreen, had to face the terrible guilt of letting her son walk alone to the park that day, a decision no one could have predicted would end in tragedy. After days of emotional testimony, the jury found Eric Smith guilty of second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 9 years to life in prison, with the possibility of parole. But for Derrick's family, no sentence could bring back their son. The pain of losing him would last a lifetime. In the years that followed, Eric Smith grew up behind bars. He expressed deep remorse for his actions, participating in therapy and trying to understand why he had committed such a horrific crime. Over time, Eric became the subject of countless psychological evaluations, media interviews, and debates about the possibility of rehabilitation. Despite his remorse and efforts to change, Eric was repeatedly denied parole. Each time, Derrick Robie's family made sure to attend the hearings, delivering. Thank you for joining us as we explored the tragic case of Derrick Robie and Eric Smith. If you found this story compelling and want to stay informed about similar cases, true crime stories, and discussions surrounding justice, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We appreciate your support and invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below.